Good morning. Good morning. It is Toni from the Fiberology Lab, and this is the Coffee Chat. Welcome back. I am trying to get this one series set up and finished up. I'm actually coming live on Facebook today, but I will go ahead and go back to having both. So I'm live on YouTube and Facebook. And just basically the whole purpose of this coffee chat was just to have coffee and have a conversation. But I've already had my coffee for the day. Is that okay? I have water. But I also want to just touch base on some things that's going on in the shop. And also, I've in the last couple of months, what I've done over Coffee Chat is talk a little bit about quilting basics as I am prepping to release my Learn How to Quilt video series here in the next month or so. So you're actually getting some small tidbits of that way I quilt because there's 20 ways to do everything, and I'm just giving you a little smackling for you to try, see if it fits you, personality, and how you might be able to quilt a little differently. I tell people I don't teach you perfection. I don't do that. I teach accurate processes, and you have to be happy with what that does for you or doesn't do for you. And move on. So if you don't mind, come on in and say hi and where you're from. That way I can acknowledge your time. I really do appreciate you watching live. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for the replay watchers. Yesterday there was quite a few, and I'm going to go back and I would do respond to those who say hi back at me because I do appreciate again your time. I try not to take too much time in these morning live chats because I've got a lot to do, and I'm sure you have a lot to do. Unless you're sewing while you're listening, that's just as fun. But then you can't ask questions. So hey there, Miss Connie. Good morning. Hello, Miss Christine. You don't see me on YouTube. Oh, well, it says I'm checked on YouTube. I wonder why I'm not showing up on YouTube. Interesting. Thanks, Christine, for letting me know. I don't know what that means. It's not working. So, and I can't look at it while I'm doing this. Hey there, Judy. Good to see you. Hello, Marilyn. Good to see you from Texas. Welcome from Texas. That's early, and well, it's only an hour difference. I think Texas is a central time zone. So, Marilyn, it's not too early for you. You're probably still having your coffee. Um, yeah, I finished my coffee. 10 o'clock. I'm normally done with coffee by 8. I'm up early. So I don't know why I thought I'd call it coffee chat, but I'm going to keep it in that same name. I am going to change it up because after I wrap up this quilting basics, I'm going to do some technique teaching. I'm going to have my camera set up a little differently to do a little more virtual instructing because I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be fun. So, oh, Linda's on YouTube. So, YouTube is working. Thanks, Christine. But I think Linda is watching from YouTube because it says the little YouTube thing on the icons there. So, I appreciate that, Linda, for that shout out. So, a couple of things I'm super excited about that I'm going to share before. See, that's the positive thing of watching. I just lost my stuff. Oh, uh, I do need more coffee. One of the things about watching in the morning, you're going to get to see things before everybody else sees it when I do my live sales on the evenings or any of the virtual shop hops. Remember, we are doing the Lucky 7 virtual shop hop. Our turn is this Saturday at noon, but I also have a live show on Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Saturday 12 at noon is Central, so it's 1 p.m. Eastern. So, hey there, Jan. Good to see you. Having green tea, Marilyn says. That's very cozy. Green tea is very good for the body. I haven't had green tea in a while, but I do have some tea. Maybe I'll go have some tea. Basically, I don't do caffeine after a certain point of the day because then I'll be up all night. I'll be up all night. So I don't do tea, iced tea, coffee, or anything after like normally about 10. Otherwise, I'll be up all night. I don't know how anybody else is like that. So one of the things I've got some new fabric in. I'm going to show you guys first, and then I have a whole big order coming today, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. But I got this new stuff from Art Gallery that I just think is stinking cute. I'm going to see if I can get the camera to see it. So the sea turtles, and this is more of a plum. There it goes. I'm waiting for the light to change properly. So this is a plum, and this is like a dusty blue with some aqua and turquoise in it. And then these are they called ovals? They're Elements essential blenders from Art Gallery, which I love. We've had them in before. I'm going to get, I think I actually have another one in. I'm looking up my fabric. My fabric's right behind the camera. So that's why I'm looking across the room to see what else I have. But I'm going to start stocking more of these colors because I love them. They're bright. And I love Art Gallery fabrics because they are 200 thread count. They have a really nice hand to them. They feel wonderful, basically. And they are great for clothing as well, this quilting. So that's brand new. I'm pretty excited about that. Oh, yay, Christine, it works. Yay, yay, yay. You know, I love it too. I'm gonna put together a kit of something with these fabrics to, and you see how I paired them up. We have the purple side and we have the blue side. You see how that works. I'm about to post a purple category on our website and in our app. If you aren't familiar, we do have an app. App is a great place for us to just see what we have in stock, and I do a lot of live shows in it. I'm going to create a category for purple people because there's a few of us out there. I didn't realize how many of purple lovers are out there, and so I'm going to create because I'm a purple lover. Even though I'm wearing a purple shirt and purple hair, I'm a purple lover. So I'm going to create a category with all purple things. I've got some new notions coming this week as well. That's going to go into that category. I'm very excited. So the other thing I got coming today is Poppy Cotton. I've got a big order from them coming. Some back order pieces. I think it was in November, early December, we started our next challenge for we do a quarterly challenge normally. This one's extended because of just everything happening in December. We're actually going to extend it through February because I just thought these pinks and reds in this little charm pack will be perfect also for a February themed project. So we've got have more of these. It's called Hopscotch and Freckles. If you have our app in there and put it on your wish list, and when you do that, when it comes in, when I put the stock in the inventory, and automatically can create an invoice for you, and you can pay for it if you pre-authorize in the app. So the app's really kind of a cool thing. Like that turtle fabric, somebody had saw it in the app, put it on the wish list, and I had an order for it yesterday. It was kind of neat. So we're getting these in today. This is what FedEx tells me. This is why I don't normally say things. FedEx says it'll be delivered today, but we'll see what FedEx does. So that's something coming from Poppy Cottons. I got more farmhouse favorites because we are doing the country blessings block of the month. This is the month one that we're doing. This is the bee. She looks like a queen bee. So if you're interested, we still have a couple spots left of that. And if you sign up, you only pay $1 to register right now because the first month will go out probably tomorrow. And what you get in our block of the month programs is a little project bag. You're going to get your fabric. At this time, we put them in test tubes. If you don't know what a test tube is, it's a fat 8. And well, this one's a fat quarter. We made it a fat test tube. I just think they're fun to roll them up. That way they're easier to store too. And see, you can see them. And then you get your pattern. And then I've created a special sheet to go along with the pattern to show you what fabric goes in what piece in the pattern, because I didn't think it was enough information. I like to make sure you have enough information to be successful with your project. So we still have some of these available if you want to sign up, and that's called Country Blessings. Again, you can go to our website, thefiberologylab.com. You can create an account there, and you can also put stuff on the wish list online without the app. I think that's pretty darn cool too. I didn't know that until the other day. Somebody else was saying I had to go to the website. I didn't know I didn't have an account. So just something to think about. Now, if you have an account in the app and you happen to be on the website, make sure you use the same account. You'll also use the same login, like your email and your password that you use in the app. So that way, make sure you don't have 2 separate accounts. Because that's happened too. That happened too. So, all right. Let's see. What we're going to talk about today is the actual process of quilting. So I don't have my machine set up. I don't have a camera set up in front of my machine. Like I said, that's something I'm working on, trying to create an environment for that when I go into our next series, where I'm going to do some do some technical teaching, like how to paper piece, how to EPP. I've got a couple different topics that people have requested. But with quilting, I'm going to just give you a high level piece of what I do to have a successful quilting process. So this is session 17. I went into our Friends Fibers and Fun network. You can join. It's free. Just go into friendsfibersfun.club. And in there is a group called Coffee Chats. And inside Coffee Chats, I have created a PDF for each one of these sessions. All these sessions are like steps. So there's like lots of little baby steps to just going through things as you are learning, or if you want to teach somebody how to quilt, just the basics of it. And I realized I'm 2 sessions behind, so I will be posting those PDFs later this afternoon. Also, keep in mind, this is going to be a paid class, so you're getting something for free right now, including the PDF. So they're not perfect. I have actually gone back through and updated the first 5 or 6 to something a little more constructive for me to use when I teach that class. So, but it's free right now. Take advantage of it. And you can go into our Mighty Networks Friends, Fibers, and Fun groups and find that there. Hey there, Kathy. Good morning. Kathy's sewing. There you go. That's a great way to do your morning coffee with me is to sew and listen in the background. Hopefully, I'm not too boring. People ask if I have a podcast. Who has time for that? And would you? And how many really of you do you listen to podcasts while you're sewing? Um, I listen to Audible books quite often while I'm sewing or I listen to some good music. But I don't know if I listen to podcasts because I'm podcasts. I always have to write notes down. So I'm just curious. Do you guys listen to podcasts? And do you? I don't know if I'd be good at a podcast. I'm a visual person, so here I am. So one of the couple. Let's think of the things you need to do when you get to quilting. So we are making a quilt which is a noun, but now we're going to quilt, which is a verb. It's one of those weird things. Oh, I just brought out school and English, my worst subjects ever. I'm actually surprised by that. Hopefully, I got it right, and then I'm going to feel really bad. It could be an adjective too, but we won't go there. Anyway, once you get your top, your batting, and your backing all basted, which was last session, we're going to go quilting. So when we quilt, we need a couple special tools. You need to make sure you have a bigger needle in your machine. I recommend a jean or a top stitch needle, at least 90. 100 might be too big of a hold, and you don't want anything smaller than 90 because you got to think of how that needle is going to penetrate 3 layers of fiber. And if you have a smaller needle, it's more likely going to create friction on your thread and break your thread in the process. And now, so I'm talking simple quilting. We're not even talking free motion today. We're just talking about basics. One of the things I like to do when I teach classes is make sure you're successful first, then grow from that. So this whole process is about you becoming successful. Free motion is a little frustrating and trying. So I want you to be successful with using your walking foot. Then you can go into free motion. Oh, really, Christine? Okay, well, Christine, you think I could do a podcast? I don't think I could do a podcast, but I'll have to think about that. I'm a visual person. I like to show and tell. I like to talk and show things. And then with quilting as a hobby, that's one of those things I've never kind of understood how people can sit and listen to a podcast that's quilting related without visually saying, "Oh, this is what I'm doing. This is how I do it." So just curious questions to ask you all. I'm locking my knees. I'm feeling faint. So if I fall, just so you know, I had my knees locked. Back to quilting, you need a machine, a needle that will work great for quilting, a jean, a top stitch, 90, 14, or higher. And higher, that means the higher number means the bigger the needle. Thread, so we want to have a pretty color thread because it's going to be seen. So you want a coordinating thread. Now this is where lots of people pick and choose. It doesn't matter. At the bottom line, it doesn't matter. I do prefer natural fibers with natural fibers. I prefer cotton thread on all my quilts. I don't get it on all my quilts, but I do prefer that. But that doesn't mean you can't use a polyester blend. Polyester blends out there that work really nicely as well, especially for quilting. But if you're doing this yourself, stick with the natural fibers just to get going and feel confident and be successful before you experiment with other stuff. Hey there, Miss Pat from Oklahoma. Good morning to you. We're just talking a little bit about quilting today, the act of quilting. So you have your needle. Now you have your thread. Now your thread, I do recommend a heavier thread because it gives it definition and makes it pop up. You can use a thinner thread, but then it's going to sit down and kind of sink into your fabric. I like a 50 weight or a 40 weight thread because I use cotton. But again, if you use poly, you end up with a higher, a thinner thread because the higher you go, the thinner the thread. It's opposite of needles. Have you ever noticed that? It's bizarre. It's bizarre. Needles, the higher the number goes, the bigger the number goes. The thread, the higher the number goes, the smaller the gauge, the thickness of thread goes. It's weird. I'm not going to say anything. Oh, something just came to mind. I'm not going to say what I'm going to say out loud. So, anyways, we have our needle and we have our thread. And the next important part of quilting is a walking foot. So, this is one style of walking foot. This is a typical style that you'll see on most machines. I was going to pull out my Janome walking foot, which is a dual feed foot, totally different. If you have a Bernino dual feed foot, totally different. And if you have a FAF, I'm talking machines now. If you have a FAF, you have a dual feed foot built into your machine. So, but the point is, you need a dual feed style foot or walking foot. This is called a dual feed foot, believe it or not, or a walking foot. And why is it called a dual feed? Well, we have our feed dogs going on the bottom of our machine, on our bed of our machine. These are essentially feed dogs on top of that. So when you have a layer of, 3 layers of fabric or 3 layers of something, you actually say anything more than 2 layers, you want to use your walking foot, or anything that has a really high loft like fleece, even denim. Trying to think what else has a high loft, but anything more than 2 layers, you want a walking foot. What the walking foot does is when the feed dogs on the bottom of your machine come up, the feed dogs on this, because it's attached to your needle bar, it goes to sits on your needle bar, your feet come down. You can see what happens when I do that. See how the feet come down? So the feet come down from the top and the feet from the bottom come up, and they pinch all that quilting sandwich underneath the needle together. And that allows it to sew smoothly, so you don't get a lot of puckering and a lot of pleats in the back of your quilt. So a couple things with using a walking foot: make sure you screw it on tight. Make sure this sits on that screw that you use to change out your needle. And also slow your machine down. Now, if anybody's sewn with me, I am a Speedy Gonzalez. My machine can do 1,600 stitches in a minute. I use that. But when you use a walking foot, you can't do that because it's still a mechanical process, but it's a different kind of mechanical process than the rest of your machine. So if you go too fast, you're likely going to skip stitches, break a needle, break thread. Turn your machine down to about a medium speed. You can go fast, but not super fast. And the other thing I've learned over the years, if you use your walking foot and you're just cruising along, doing a simple, slow pace, and you are skipping stitches, that's a first sign of showing that your machine is out of balance. That means you had to have it serviced, or out of time, not out of balance, out of timing. So you have to take it in to have it serviced. So I always can figure out when my machine's out of service or out of timing when I put my walking foot on. So, oh yeah, Christy, I 40 weight cotton thread with my quilting. I'm very fond of King Tut by Superior Threads because it's variegated. I think that's the best way to use thread, is having if you have a quilt with a lot of colors. So, hey there, Lori, good morning to you. Thank you for joining. We're just talking a little bit about. So this is your walking foot. So those are the 3 important things for you to do as we get ready to quilt. You need the right needle, the right thread, and the right foot. Excuse me. And the next thing I want you to do is go to your sewing machine and change the stitch length. Right now, most of our machines default to like a 2.0 or 2.2 or 2.5, which is perfect for piecing. But when you start putting all those layers together, again, you got to think of the process of what your machine is going through. You want to bring that stitch length up a little bit. Don't bring it up a lot because you don't want gaping stitches either, because that will loosen up through time and wear. But I tend to do mine between on my machines. It depends on the machines because I have 2 different ones. Either between 2.8 and 3.0. So think about that and test it out, because it also, especially with your walking foot, you're going to see how your stitch either remains consistent or bunches up. So just something to think about. So we have marked our quilt. We have basted it off my previous sessions, and I'm going to show you how I quilted it. So when we marked our quilt, we did mark it on the diagonal. I think as a beginner, stitching in the ditch, it's everyone's go-to. I personally don't like it. This is just me being a little OCD, is when I can't stitch perfectly in that ditch. And if I jump over, even if it's only a quarter of an inch, nobody's going to see it but me. It drives me batty. So if I don't stitch in the ditch in lines, I tend to do 1/8 of an inch on the side of a ditch when I'll do on the other side. Again, the whole goal for me to teach you is to be successful. So having it going diagonal allows you not to worry about it not being super straight. It's easier to fudge a straight line over, let me find a spot, over the intersections, because I can stop, pivot, and jump over, so right here where that intersection is. The camera's backwards. I'm looking at it on my screen and I'm realizing it's backwards. You're seeing me in the right way. I can't see how I'm showing you is what I'm trying to say. So you're just going to stitch all the way down. Now, again, this is not typical. For a beginner, I am going to suggest you backstitch. If we were sitting one next to each other, I would show you how to pull up your bobbin thread and tack your stitch down and then quilt. I want you to be successful. This is a beginner's quilt. So if you sit there and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe she's going to tell them to do this, relax. Relax. Remember when the first time you quilt, this is not typically how I quilt. This is what I recommend to a beginner to be successful. So actually, I think I brought my bobbin thread on this one sample. I can't even show you my back stitch, but I tell you to back stitch at the beginning and at the end of every stitch line to secure it. Now, some machines have that fixed stitch. If you have a fixed stitch machine, go for it. You could do it that way. I don't trust them. They tend to loosen up through washing, but that's just me. Again, trial and error. Try what works best for you. And we're just going to quilt on those lines that we created in our session. I think it was last session or the session before, on marking our quilt. The other line I have, if you can see it, is the one right here in the inner binding. And all I did was 1/8 of an inch against that seam. Remember I said I don't stitch in the ditch. I stitch off the seam line, and I didn't mark it. I just used a point on my walking foot and just followed that point all the way around. Now, the next thing you'll notice, there is no quilting in my border. This is where I do allow my beginners to say, hey, if you want to try free motion, you can do it. But again, my goal is for you to be successful and finish. And because it's only a 4-inch border and the batting is, most of them are 6 inches to 8 inches of no quilting, there's no need to quilt that piece. So, and it'll be captured into our binding, which we'll talk about next week or next session, which I'm going to probably do tomorrow. So keep it simple. As we look at our quilt, I wish I had more space. I'm building in a design wall into my live stream as well. So in 2 weeks, I have my babies leaving me. I have grandbabies living with us. They've been with us for a year. In 2 weeks, they'll be moving on to their next adventure, and I am going to expand into my house. I'm pretty excited about it. Pretty excited. Hey there, Miss Hope. Good morning. Good to see you. 3 is perfect for brother machines. Thanks, Christine. So if you have a brother, Christine saying for quilting, change that stitch length to 3.0. I do agree. I like 2.8 or 3.0. It just depends. I have 2 machines. They're both Genomes. It just depends on your machine. But Christine says if you have a brother, that works great. So when we look at this quilt and we see all those quilt lines, always start in the center of the quilt. For quilting on this one, and we're quilting diagonally, center of the quilt is actually a diagonal. Diagonal. I'm thinking of Harry Potter and Diagon Dally. No, I can't say it. Anyway, about dress. So you're going to start on the center diagonal, and then you're going to work one side to one side. There's technically 4 quadrants. So if we go one diagonal, this is a quadrant 1. This would be quadrant 2. And then when we flip it 90 degrees, we have another diagonal, which is going in the opposite direction. Anytime you are quilting lines, you're going to start from the center. You're going to start one point up here, sew down, and then you're going to sew from that point back up. You're going to sew in opposite directions of the seam line, so it allows that fabric to not be all shoved and shifted down to one point. If we sat here and went sew down, sew down, sew down, what you're doing is you're stretching all that fabric all the way down here, and you're not going to end up with a square quilt. Again, beginner quilt, if it's not square, we're not too stressed about it, but long term, again, creating accurate processes now. So when you do something later that you really want to be more precise, that will allow you to be thinking that way. So we're going to sew up or down, and then we're going to sew up and then down and up. We're going to do this quadrant. Then we're going to go ahead and do this quadrant and then rotate it 90 degrees and repeat the same process. Once I have quilted the whole inside, that's when I quilt. That's when I quilt the border piece. So take your time. This takes about 45 minutes to 2 hours. And what I tell people is you're gonna sit there at that machine. Let me tell you about some other things about quilting at your machine. When we quilt, we're so focused. We're so intent. We're like our neck and our shoulders and our bodies are all tensed up because we're trying to make it go straight. Keep in mind, your feed dogs and your walking foot do most of the work. All you're doing is guiding, so you don't have to force it. Gloves are handy so that you can grip it. There's this other thing I use called lickety grip that you put on your fingertips, and it helps you keep your fingers from sweating and sliding on it. That's one. Those are a couple of like extra tools. And then the other thing is to relax. Learn to sit back. You're gonna have to really think about it a little bit. Learn to sit back. If your machine is too high, bring your seat up. You need to be. You don't want to be having your hands way up here because your machine is on a high table. You want it down lower so you're more ergonomic. Not what's the word? I am having problems with words today. I obviously need more coffee. Or maybe I'll just have some quilting juice now, and then I'll just everything will come out. It'd be really weird. Anyway, pay attention to your body is what I'm basically trying to say. Don't sit there and quilt for 45 minutes. Go about 10, 15 minutes, get up, stretch, move, pull your arms around, and then go back to it. I actually encourage you if you quilt more than 30 minutes, walk away for an hour because that way you give your body rest. It also helps you um, reset your mind. Even though you're doing straight lines, it's pretty monotonous. Just relax and step back from it, or do it over a couple days. So, um, what else was there about quilting? I think I think that was it. So make sure you have the right tools. So you have the jean or the top stitch needle at 90 or higher. Have the right thread, color coordinated, 50 or 40 weight. You don't want to use a 60 weight or an 80 weight cotton on your thread, but you can use polyester. Make sure you use your walking foot. Make sure you bring your stitch length up to either 0.8 or 3 higher, depending on your machine. And when you quilt, make sure you're going in opposite directions and you start from the center. I think that's all the high level tips we really need. And just do it. Don't be afraid of it. Guess what? You have that handy dandy seam ripper if you have to pull it out. So don't worry about that. Um, so that's just a little, that's the high level of just the basics in quilting. So we are almost done. I actually designed it so we have 20 sessions. So next session will be about binding. And I'm going to talk about machine binding it all completely on and hand binding. Now you still need the machine and your walking foot for those processes, but I'll talk about that in tomorrow's session. Then we're going to talk about labels, talk about like, oh, I didn't want to label. I want binding to be done. But a lot of us do give these away as gifts. And it sometimes can be a historic value, whether you understand it now at this point in your life, but it will. And then the other thing I'm going to talk about is how to hang it if you want to hang it. And the last thing is how to care for quilts long term. So especially when you give it a gift, they'll be like, well, I don't want to wash it because I'm afraid it'll fall apart. Well, I made it so it wouldn't fall apart. So please wash it because it's disgusting if you don't. So I'll talk about how to help other people wash and take care of your quilts. I throw mine in the wash machine, but we'll talk about other ways to do it. So that is our session for today. I'll do a PDF up. I'm uploading the other PDFs here momentarily in our Friends, Fibers, and Fun group. Does anybody have any questions or any suggestions about quilting their quilt? Or any other future classes. So I think for February, my focus is going to be on paper piecing. We're going to be talking a lot about paper piecing in February. I'm going to create some patterns that are unique so you guys can play with them and learn a little bit either to love it or hate it. I've learned teaching paper piecing over 15 years. There's no middle ground. You either love it or hate it. So I'm hoping you all enjoy it. That's what I'm hoping for. So does anybody have any questions? See quite a few people on. Yay. That's awesome. Thank you so much again. I appreciate your time sharing on this morning. So I will be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget, we do a live show Thursday evenings at 8 p.m. And then we have our Lucky 7 this weekend at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, Stitched Up Stories is this weekend. we're seeing a lot. We're not seeing a lot of people signing up, and I think it's because she's an embroidery designer for machine embroidery. But she does other stuff, so you never know what you're going to learn when you engage with these designers and stitched up stories. She also teaches for Bernina, so she might have some tips on a machine. She might talk more about how her processes are in designing, which might help you in designing something as well. So check it out. Go to stitchedupstories.com. Make sure you sign up under us that we get a little kickback. And join us Sunday at 4 p.m. for Lisa Archer. She's the owner and designer of Pickle Pie Designs. Linda, I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. Christine, I am definitely doing EPP. So there's two paper EPP is English paper piecing, and then we have foundation paper piecing. I am going to do both in some way. I'm doing EPP English paper piecing all by hand. It's all by hand. With our local shop here, with our Tula Club. That was a major success Saturday. I'm pretty excited about it. There, we are doing something there that I'm going to pull over into our group for February. I'm not going to talk about it yet because I have to get all the notes prepared for it. So, and one of those things we did was EPP. We talked about English paper piecing, but I really want people to learn better ways to do foundation paper piecing. I think what I have learned with people learning how to paper piece is they learn either by themselves or they have a poor instructor that didn't quite understand how to present the information. So I'm hoping I can do a little better and give everyone a chance to learn to like it, at least enjoy it. Sometimes it's necessary. You don't have to love it, but I want you to enjoy it and like it so you if you come to a point where you want to use it for a pattern, you won't feel scared and be, I ain't doing that pattern because it's paper piecing. I'm hoping we can get over that. So you're going to have, okay, good. Good, Christine. Well, when I get the EPP set up, I will make sure she is available and I'll let you know. So that is my coffee chat. I went a little longer than I expected, but that's all right. You're still here and I appreciate it. So you guys have a wonderful Tuesday and I will see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern where we will talk about binding. That is like the next to cutting and color picking out. That is the most stressful thing from newbies to learn. And I have a way that I've been showing for 15 years and people, it works for people. So um, I'm off to the half square triangles. Woohoo! Thangles, man. I haven't heard thangles in a long time. That's a big quilt there, Marilyn. Have fun with those half square triangles. That's awesome. Oh, yay. Hope signed up for the block of the month. We'll be talking about that too, because I think I'm going to go ahead and run some of it through my shop as well. So thanks, Hope, for signing up and supporting the local shop. I appreciate that. All right. You guys have a great Tuesday. I'll be back tomorrow. And do you have any questions? Email me at info@fiberologylab.com. And remember, we are friends, fibers, and fun.